welcome back to Lamp Oil Stock, where we try to look at different things with a Hebrew Israelite perspective and have some conversations to try to get you to think about it. So let's see, what are we starting off with today?
Well, today I want to talk about forgiveness, baggage, and personal responsibility. Maybe in that order, maybe not. I just kind of say what pops into my mind and move on with it. So I think where I want to start with, because this is things I've been thinking about all day,
Right.
is the Adam and Eve story.
Okay.
Because I was watching a video where I heard somebody saying some things, and all of the statements that they were making seemed kind of truthful.
Right.
And yet, because it's only part of a story, it's not necessarily the whole truth.
Okay.
And so I find that to be what you have a lot when you're looking at the media and people responding to different things that they see. They take their personal things that they've experienced or gone through and learned, and they add that twist or take to the story while ignoring the other side.
Okay.
What I mean is, it's like me and one of my children will get into an argument, and they'll feel like I'm just doing these things, I'm bad, I'm mean, I'm whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because their feelings are hurt, and so they want to talk about that aspect of the conversation, how it affected them.
Right.
But they never look at how that same series of events affected me.
Okay.
So when they tell their side of the story to someone, what they're saying is true from their perspective.
I got you. Okay. So, all right, go ahead. Didn't mean to stop you. Go ahead.
And so, I there's always more than one side. They say there's my side, your side, and the truth.
Right, I got you. Yeah.
But it's really, people don't really take into account any sides but their own when it comes to anything that they're talking about. So back to Adam and Eve
Okay.
for a moment. When Eve was alone, she had Satan come up to her and tell her to eat from the tree of good and evil.
Right.
And he told her some things that technically were true, and it convinced her to take a bite of the tree.
Okay.
The problem is that even though it was kind of true, it was also a lie at the same time.
Right.
Because we know that she did not surely die right then.
Yeah, I got you.
And that she gained knowledge right then, and that knowledge gave her more power over the earth that she was dealing with. So what he said was true, and yet at the same time it wasn't true.
Because she died spiritually, and
well, it separated her from the
Most High.
right?
Exactly.
Right. And so I hear people constantly ranting. They give rants because they hear a piece of a story or some fact that someone has said, and they put their own thoughts and feelings into whatever has been said, and then they run off in this emotional tidal wave, and it leads them to bad decisions, bad ways of thinking.
It not only leads them to bad decisions, but other people will hear those stories and with their own baggage, and they'll make even worse decisions.
Right. Because if it sounds good, people seem to fall for it. Eve fell for it at the very beginning. Satan came with some, or the snake, as it says, came with some very crafty words, and she fell for it. And now you have media where everybody's giving off crafty words, and because of how I feel about it, or because of things that have happened to me, or I have experienced, I want to jump on those crafty words without looking at the whole thing.
Okay, wait a minute. You just said you. You mean people.
Well, sometimes me.
Okay. Okay.
I'd like to say, well, I'm above that, but I'm not. And so, I feel better saying me, because somebody might hear me and get upset because I'm saying they're doing something, and I'm okay with not being perfect.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So you have that story, and I heard someone giving his thoughts on an issue that had happened, and like I said, what he said was true, and I have skin in the game, I guess, because he was talking about the black people in America that suffered through what we've suffered here, and he was also talking about the Haitians,
Right.
people, and he was giving his commentary from the point of view of black people in America.
Okay, I got you.
Right? But it's not the whole story, and you can't. It's very biased, and if you listen to it, you could get upset at a different group of people for this reason or that reason, but we're not taking into account what they are going through or what they've been through, and it's just not the right way to be. You're supposed to think and reason about everything that you hear, do, whatever, and I just feel like a lot of people leave off the thinking and the reasoning.
No way. I'm sure everybody spends their days thinking and reasoning through their decisions before they make them. That's called sarcasm.
If only that were true. So, but it's, and I don't want to come down on the man or the gentleman for doing it, because I can understand why he did it, or how people can do that. But that comes with baggage. We become Israelites. We're supposed to leave that baggage at the door. Like when Moses talked to the burning bush, he had to take off his shoes. God's saying, leave all of your baggage at the door and become someone new. Mm-hmm. Right? So it is not me finding a reason or being okay with something that is happening or pointing blame at someone. It is supposed to be me looking at any situation through the Most High's eyes. How does he see it? What does he think about it? How does he feel about it? And how can I then change my thinking to the way his is?
Okay, I got you.
So I see a lot of situations going on in Israel. And you have the colorism issue. You have the classism issue.
You mean in actual Israel or in...
No, in the Israelite community.
Okay.
In the United States, because I can't talk about in a different, country. But, so in the United States, the Israelite community in the United States, you have color, that it seems to be a huge issue with people, and that's because of baggage, right? You know, either you have some dark skinned people who are upset with light skinned people because of they were teased or spoken ill about, or they felt less in some way because of things you're taught, things you see on TV. And as an Israelite, you know, or at least you learn that all of that is was part of what um, Esau did in order to separate us and keep us separated. And yet you will still hear Israelites speaking on that colorism issue and making disparaging marks about someone who may be lighter skinned than they think they should be.
I got you.
Or um, you will, or on the other hand, you'll hear light skinned people saying something about someone who is dark skinned.
Mm-hmm.
See, that is learned behavior and baggage that we were taught that we haven't thrown away. We haven't given up on. So if we see something and we have this colorism thing in our mindset, then we may just immediately dismiss whatever's going on or think something negative due to the color of a person's skin.
Okay.
It's the same thing with overweight or weight. People who the world says is overweight. You know, people, they say all types of negative things about people that are overweight. You know, oh well, they're nasty, they're dirty, they are what. I mean, could they not close the door? I mean, are you serious?
He did close it. He did. Just keep going. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so anyway, you know, they make all of these statements that, you know, they're lazy, they're whatever. And you have absolutely no idea or clue as to why this person is that way. But, so sometimes you'll see someone who is overweight and they're speaking and you may just not intentionally, not really even think about it, but not give them as much credit for what they're saying based on your baggage that you have brought into the situation.
So, okay, I know you were just talking about baggage.
Right.
Right. And with that being a thought, a lot of us have it.
Right.
You know, a lot of us have it. And to move the conversation on. So, how do we deal? What? I know my thought. You know, I know my thought on how to deal with this baggage. How to deal, or what the Most High says we should do with this previous life before we came into the truth.
Okay, well, what is your thought?
I was trying to give you an opening, but you know, to leave that baggage behind, to forgive our previous life, let it go, and start the new one.
Right. Well, but the problem is that most people aren't sitting around thinking about themselves and what negativity they are bringing to a situation, or some people don't even see how those thoughts are affecting the decisions that they're making today. You know, you have to be aware that there is an issue. You have to accept it before you can start to do things to get rid of it.
Now, see, I'm going to bring up something. I say this on the regular. I say this at least to people on a regular basis. That our lifestyle, being a Hebrew Israelite, is the act of looking backwards to go forwards. What I mean by that is, you know, the Bible took place before us. But to know the future, to know what's going to happen, we look to the past. We look to the Bible, the things that happened before us. And that to me is a symbol of what you're supposed to be doing in your own life. You look at your past and it's there, it's accepted, it's who made you who you were. But you have to use it to move forward. You have to be self-examining to grow.
Right, but I feel like a lot of people don't use the stories that are in the Bible and use them to grow who they are as a person. You know, they say, oh, well, God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because they were doing evil stuff. But they don't really look at the people and the different situations that were going on there in order to use those instances or those examples that the Bible is giving them to judge and look at their own life.
I'll use that same example. So if we look at, say, Lot's wife at Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot's wife could not let go of her past. She couldn't do it. So the angel is rushing them out, and Lot's wife has to look back.
Right, right.
And that's what turns her into the pillar of salt, standing out there to this day. It is that same exact act of she could not let go of her past.
Well, in the story of Lot's wife, I think it's more complicated than not letting go of her past because her children were there. You know, some of her children were still there, and they chose to stay in that evil instead of going towards the Most High. And that is an issue that we have today as Israelites. We have a lot of family that have chosen, for one reason or another, not to turn back and repent. And so they are going to be killed.
That's true. But, now, to bring it up again, that's true, and that's going to happen to some people. But we cannot spend all of our time focused on that or focused on our own past, because it'll lead us down the wrong path.
It will if we can't learn from the examples that the Bible gives us on how to deal with everyday situations. I give you an example of you have a lot of grown people out there who blame everybody for the circumstances that they've been in or that they've gone through but themselves, or are still allowing things that happened to them 20 years ago to affect their present day and in a detrimental way. So that instead of focusing on what they should be focusing on, coming together, doing what the Most High has asked us to do, they want to moan and bemoan their life and what had happened to them. They, I hear people talking about women or people talking about men and they're this or they're that. You can't do, you can't trust them, you can't do that. And a lot of that is because they've been hurt.
Right.
Either by mom or dad or some sort of caregiver, or maybe a relationship that went bad. And I think that with me, I had a rough life. It was, in my opinion, very difficult. But as I've gotten older, I have understood that the good and the bad helped me be who I am, and that I had to go through all of that in order to be who I am.
Right.
So some of it was hard. Some of it was real hard. But if you look in the Bible, if you look at Moses, if you look at the story of Enoch, if you look at any of the stories in the Bible, all of those people had really difficult goals or spots in their lives that were, devastating.
Right.
And yet they ended up doing so much. So I can say that sometimes if I think about my past, I will still get sad or I feel bad because sometimes I feel sorry for that younger me.
Mm-hmm.
um, but I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change anything from my past because I needed all of that to get to where I
Right. Right. See, when I'm saying turn away from your past, I'm not saying that you forget it, but you have to grow from it. You can't live in it.
Right. You got to grow from it. You got to forgive. You got to forgive the people who mistreated you if that was a situation. Or you have to forgive yourself for shit that you did. It's not you should continue to do it if it was you that caused yourself the pain, or that you should continue to allow people to do negative things to you. But you have to forgive them because you're not perfect.
Right.
And that is how you heal from it and move on. When I was a kid, my dad didn't like me. And I didn't like him. I wished he was dead more times than I can think, than I can recall, I'm sure. I spent a lot of time in that thought because it just seemed mutually, understood that he hated me and I hated him. But today, I love my dad. My dad was a very hard man. And I took it from a child's point of view. And he did some things that were wrong. Well, he did a lot of things that were wrong. But now that I'm older, I understand that I've made mistakes too with my children, I've made mistakes, not out of I'm wanting to make these mistakes, but it's because I have baggage. I've had baggage. And when it comes to dealing with my children, sometimes that baggage came out. And I understand with my dad now that it's the same with him. So did it made me stronger and it's made me understand that everything is not easy. There's no handbook on how to love someone until you get the Bible. Right? But my family was Christian. Oh, I've been baptized, I'm good. And so they didn't, my dad didn't really know how to love. And if he didn't know how to really love, then how could he really show me love? How could I get that from him?
Right.
And so there was a time when I didn't know how to love. And for everybody that I hurt, I want them to say, or I want them to forgive me. Because it wasn't necessarily intentional. Sometimes I hurt people because I thought I was doing the right thing. And when I was younger, I hurt people because I was hurting. And now that, I've got this gray in my hair, I can look back at that time and move forward with a better understanding. And I'm able to do that because I've gone to the Most High, and He's shown me what love is, and He's given me the ability to forgive and move on. And I don't think that a lot of our people are sitting back and really trying to figure out what God's love is, because they're so overwhelmed with the baggage that they've carried into their new life.
Right. Right. So the last thing to talk about, we talked a little bit about baggage, a little bit about some forgiveness. We're going to talk a little bit about some personal development, because once you come into the truth, that's coming into the building. You still got to make it through. You got to keep going. And as I look at our people, I think you're absolutely right. You know, many of them are weighed down with baggage, or whatever. We use baggage, but it could be anything. You know, psychological baggage, work baggage. It doesn't matter. But they're so weighed down with those things, they can't take those next steps to start to begin to improve themselves, to actually live through the way of the Bible instead of just carrying it with them.
Right. Because the Bible says, seek me. And a lot of our people want people to give God to them. And you can't get it that way. And a lot of people don't know how to seeking, because they bring in part of their Christianity into the Israelite system now, and in Christianity, you went to church, your pastor told you, and that was it. But that's not seeking Him. You have to, waking up, being awoke to the fact that you are Israelite is the start. That's the easy part. The journey, the trials, the ups and the downs, that is what you have to go through in order to really find the Most High. And you have to, that's a quest that you have to take on your own.
Right. I mean, there are people like us, or there's other folks out there who try and share some of what it means to be an Israelite. But in all reality, you've got to read it for yourself and internalize it to develop that personal relationship with the Most High. Everything else is just words. I mean, I can tell you what being an Israelite feels to me, but each person has to deal with their baggage, as we've been saying. They got to deal with the forgiveness of themselves to be able to start on to the step number 2, as the step, as it may be. The issue is a lot of Israelites have the trappings. Hey, I don't eat pork. I follow the laws. But if you haven't really thought about what the laws mean or why you're doing it, you're kind of missing part of the point.
Right, and then you have to also want. You have to also desire the Most High more than you desire the things of this world. And you see a lot of Israelites that get stuck at some understanding point. And it's because they're not yet willing to struggle or suffer more, or because God wants you to come to Him, and that's one step at a time. So you have to, you're constantly supposed to be changing, getting more understanding, because as you get more understanding, then you are going to change. But some people like the life they have, and they know that if they change too much, then the life they have will go away. But that's what God is looking for. And for He's looking for you to say that He is more important than everything. And if you look at us coming out of Egypt, that's the same problem we had when Moses first brought us out. We started complaining that at least in Egypt we had this or we had that. And here we are, and we look at that story as something that happened in the past, but that story is happening right now.
Right. Right. It's happening right this moment. See, that's part of the issue we talk about in most of our videos. And now I'm going to shift the conversation on
Go
this.
ahead.
You know, Israelite leadership. I don't know where it is yet. You know, it hasn't formed yet. But it's something that needs to happen. But it can only happen when the body, the people in the body, begin to change. Because what's going on right now is people are starting to wake up and see that they're Israelites. But we're supposed to be a nation, not a group of individuals. We're a nation. And
Or not a club.
that's the best way to look at it. That is the best way to look at it. We are a nation. A nation has officers and leaders, and if you look at this one, it's got a president and it's got a senate. It is a nation of individuals. And yes, we are a nation which is scattered, but we're starting to wake up and realize who we are, and it's time to start coming together. And the issue is there's so little, I guess the way to say it is, there's a couple of big groups, but they're not, what are they doing? And what are we doing individually? What are we doing as a nation at this point? It's, the Bible says that Judah, and we believe we are part of that tribe, Judah is like an old lion, and who will rise him up? Who will raise him up? And it's really to get Judah to wake up. But we've got to take those first steps individually before we can really start to come together.
And it seems like we're trying to elect someone to lead us through everything. Without.
I got to disagree with you. I will say to you, most people are waiting on Moses. They're waiting on somebody else to just stand up and I guess part the ocean or something, some blatantly obvious event to say, oh yeah, now it's time to go. When it could be you, whoever listening to this particular cast, or me or whoever, who knows who the Most High is going to use to do things. But if we as a nation do not start on the path of looking at our baggage, realizing that we have it, self-reflection, forgiving ourselves as the Most High forgave us, and then begin a trip of personal growth to the Most High, what are we doing? What makes us different than some Christian out there simply saying, oh, I love God, I'm done, I do it Monday, I do it Sunday from 11 to 2, and that's it. What makes us different? Is it that we follow the laws? No. It has to be an attitude. It cannot be something superficial.
And we have to hold those people that say that we should listen to them accountable, and make them prove whatever it is that they're doing.
We could do we probably should at some point do a whole cast on a whole thing on the role of the audience in a church, because I'm sure you and I both came from Baptist churches where you don't have a role. In a Baptist church, you simply your responsibility is to show up and give money. I guess that's it. That's all that you have to do. But when you read the Bible, and I'd like to go through maybe at some point point out some of these points where the role of the audience was to keep the leader, whoever's in charge, on the right path. If they say something that makes no sense, you're supposed to point it out and be like, that doesn't make any sense. It's more supposed
in a respectful way.
Right. It's more supposed to be Bible study, not preaching, I guess is the way to say it. Because you're supposed to be talking about these things, the subjects or whatever that's brought up. Whoever's leading that day and the audience that's there is a back and forth relationship, not a one-sided relationship. But I know that's a whole separate thing. But for this one, personal growth toward the Most High is what we're supposed to be striving for.
Right, and believing him when he says that you are a peculiar people and that he has chosen you. Because it's easy to believe the things that are scary, but we need to start really believing the good things as well.
So, this is what we got going on today. Hopefully you've enjoyed what we had to say. If you could, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about what we talked about. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Kwam Yasharala.
Bye.